Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions, episode number 124 for the Texas Rye Whiskey Tournament, bracket number 2. This will be the second matchup. The first matchup was at the last week of June, and kind of July I got real crowded and took some time off from here. But so this will be the second matchup. In this tournament, I'm looking at 16 Texas Rye whiskeys in a series of head-to-head competitions to determine which would be my favorite rye whiskey. Now this bracket is going to be very similar to the first bracket with a few exceptions. One of the whiskeys that I tested in bracket 1 is no more. Cotton Hollow was a wonderful whiskey at 101 proof. It was an almost Texan whiskey that had a bit of a complicated legal history behind it. It was started in the woodlands and then ended up city council changed the rules or the laws or something and wouldn't let the guy build a distillery, so he sourced it. So, but anyway, that company is no more. I can't replace that bottle, and it's almost empty. Second change, still Austin Straight Rye, another wonderful rye whiskey coming out of Austin at 99.6 proof, got itself disqualified last time because the week I was going to do the competition with them, they sent me an advertisement featuring a drag show at their distillery, and I just couldn't handle that, so they got disqualified in the finals. And so, you know, I'm kind of kicked them out of the tournament and we'll do something else. So those two ryes will have to be replaced. And then there's the problem with Herman Marshall that I think I've solved. The rye that I used was a Total Wine barrel pick, so it is unique. And Herman Marshall's gone through a lot of changes. They've been bought out by somebody else. Dry County, I think, is going to be the new name, maybe. But I actually called that distillery today and talked with them, and each of their rye selections is basically a single barrel. And so you're going to see a lot of proof variation. Sometimes it'll be 92 proof, sometimes 100 or even 102 proof. So each edition of the rye is going to be unique. So there's no way to account for that. So I'm just going to stick with the Herman Marshall that I've got. Although I do know that, you know, if I could find one of those 100, 102 proofs, I would get that. So all this has resulted in some reshuffling of the bracket, and so I've also kind of aligned the bracket a little bit different, so I get some whiskeys competing with whiskeys they didn't face off with last time. The final change that really determined why we needed a second bracket, and this was the intention all along, was a rule change. Last time I was looking for that pure, clean rye flavor. But in Texas whiskeys, there are two distinct ways to age the whiskey. You can age it in a climate-controlled warehouse, and if you do that, you're going to get that pure, clean rye flavor, such as Blackland. But if you expose the barrels to the raw climate, which is extremely hot in the summer, and you can get very cold in the winter, that's going to affect the flavor of the whiskey, and you get a much stronger barrel influence and char influence, and it so greatly affects the whiskey that a lot of people who taste one of those Texas whiskeys that's been out in the climate, some people love it. I'm one of those, and some people hate it. It's like it's hard to be in between about that. You can't be indecisive when it comes to those heavy Texas funk whiskeys. So the ryes are the same way. So in other words, amongst the rye whiskeys, last time I focused on that clean, smooth rye flavor. Now I'm focusing on which one do I actually like the best. If I had these whiskeys, you know, 5 times, which one would I take 3 times and which would I take 2 or 4 and 1? So that it's just simply what do I like the best. And that may lean me towards the Texas Funk. I don't know. Now, all of these whiskeys are, generally speaking, from Texas. However, some of that means a Texan owns it, or it should be Texas, or it's sourced, but it's still in Texas. A lot of complications there. Tonight is a perfect example because I've got Leadslingers Fighting Spirit Rye. And this is from Scissortail Distillery in Moore, Oklahoma. So it's not really Texas, but it's owned by a famous Texan, Matt Best. He started the company along with 6 of his veteran friends from the military. And plus, Scissortail Distillery is from my home state, Oklahoma. And it's actually closer to me here in Fort Worth than the distilleries in San Antonio or Houston. So I put Leadslingers in the almost Texas whiskey category. And it's really the only distillery that's putting anything out in Oklahoma. So that kind of makes sense. And then there's some other rye whiskeys that use MGP from Indiana, like Oak and Eden does that. A couple of others. And the final rule that I'll discuss is how to handle a tie. Some whiskeys are just so close, so similar, I couldn't choose. So how do I determine the winner? Price and availability. Can you buy it, and how expensive is it? So those are all the rules. That's the background to this Texas Rye Whiskey Tournament. Now, on to the actual competition. Tonight we have Lockwood Straight Rye, 90 proof. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here's Lockwood. Lockwood Straight Rye, 90 proof. Started in Richardson, Texas, a suburb of Dallas, but they started during the middle of COVID in 2020. Now, what saved them was that they focused on their restaurant, which had outside seating and takeouts. The distillery was still producing, but it always takes a couple of years to put whiskey out for a profit. So the distillery depended a lot on the restaurant side to pay the bills. But Lockwood was doubly smart in that they opened a second distillery and restaurant here in Fort Worth, 12 minutes from my house. I've been there a few times. Took my wife once. We had a marvelous lunch and a couple of drinks. Now, last time in the competition, Lockwood won their first round against Oak and Eden Rye and Spire. However, the Lockwood Rye has a very unusual funk to it. It's got a very vegetal taste. Think cooked broccoli, maybe. So if you check the reviews that are out there, a lot of people don't like this rye. I like it. It's not bad. It's definitely different. I really think that if you're a Scotch drinker, this may be a rye you should try. The funk in this rye kind of resembles some funky Scotches that I've had. And this whiskey is labeled as a straight rye, so it's at least 2 years old, but I really don't have a mash bill for it. Now on to Leadslingers Fighting Spirit Rye, 90 proof whiskey out of Moore, Oklahoma, in the Scissortail Distillery, founded by Matt Best along with 6 other military veterans. Matt Best is quite the character here in Texas, also founder of Black Rifle Coffee Company and Article 15 Clothing. And he's done several music videos as well. He's authored a book. Right here is his book, Thank You for My Service. If you've watched any of his music videos, he's hilarious. So that's the character behind this whiskey. Now, Scissortail Distillery also makes a single malt and a bourbon and rum and some other stuff. This whiskey is no age statement. I think it's very young, probably less than a year. Could not find a mash bill for this either. Moore, Oklahoma has a very similar climate to Texas. So it's likely, you can age it for under a year and it comes out fine. And this is one of my favorites. I got to admit, this is one of my favorites. This is my second bottle and it's almost gone. So that's the introduction to the whiskeys. Price and availability. Leadslingers, not available at Total Wine. It is not available at Goody Goody. It is available at Specs for $30.52. Lockwood, Total Wine, $29.99. Specs, not available. Goody Goody, $31.59. So now for the competition. My wife has poured these two, and number 1 on the bottom should be Leadslingers, and number 2 should be Lockwood. So I don't know which glass is which. You might be able to see the numbers when I drink, but I'm going to go off of appearance. This one is slightly darker, maybe just a little bit darker. So I'm going to say this is the Lockwood and this is the Leadslingers. That's my guess, just going off of visuals. Now I'm going to do the nosing. And my nose is totally inadequate. I can barely smell just a little bit of a rye smell there. Just not much. This one I can smell a little bit more. A little bit of rye going on there. So I'm going to say this one wins the nosing. A little bit more of a smell there, but my nose is just inadequate. So now we're going to do the taste test. One on my left. Wow. That's pretty good, but you know what? I'm thinking now, from the taste, that tastes more like Lockwood. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking off the taste that might be Lockwood. You know, that's so I'm going to switch these around. You know, Lockwood's got kind of a simple, basic bottle. It does have this interesting key on the back, which is also there on the front. So the label's fairly plain, but I like where they started this in Richardson was on Lockwood Avenue. So that's where the name comes from. But funny story is that in Fort Worth, the building that they took over used to be a locksmith. And so what a coincidence. I mean, Lockwood Avenue and or Lockwood Drive in Richardson, and then a locksmith place there in Fort Worth. So that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, now it's on my right, but I really think that's Lockwood. Huh, that's wild. Let me cleanse my palate just a little bit. Okay, so now this one might be Leadslingers. That is definitely Leadslingers. Okay, yeah, I think this one now on my left, I switched them. This is definitely the Leadslingers. And this one is the Lockwood. So now the difficulty is, which one do I like the best? That one's got a pure, clean rye flavor. So I'm really thinking that's Leadslingers. Neither of these has the Texas char funk. But this one, on my right, this has the vegetal funk. Yeah, that is so different. That's definitely the Lockwood. Neither of these has the Texas char. So I've got to, which one would I just naturally go to more often? Which one do I prefer the best? Well, I'm going to have to say Leadslingers for the win. That's actually pretty close. That's closer than I would have thought. The Lockwood, see, I'm down to close to half a bottle. When I first opened the bottle, it took me aback. It was surprising. The vegetal note in there was very different. A lot of people don't like it. You can check out the comments and reviews. I put it in that category of interesting, and I like interesting whiskeys. And I mean, that's like, there's some scotches out there that's similar to. So that's why I'm saying, if you like scotch, you could go there. But I think for just, if I want a rye whiskey, 3 out of 5 times I'm going to go with Leadslingers. So it's Leadslingers for the win. There you go. And they've got just a cool bottle. I mean, I don't know if you can see in the back, they've got that come and take it flag. It's hard to read, but it's there. You can see that. And on the front, you know, you've got that iconic photograph of a Marine from World War II. So it's you just got a very, very nice bottle. The bottle immediately caught my attention when I saw it, and then I researched it and saw that it was founded by veterans. So it's been a favorite of mine for several years now. Okay, well, there's a winner. Leadslingers for the win. So next time we will be having Oak and Eden Rye and Spire facing off against Devil's River Rye, both at 90 proof. So I can't guarantee it'll be next week, but it'll be sometime soon. In the meanwhile, this is Stab the Dragon out here.